Hi, Louise.
Hi, Sarah.
There was such a delay right there. Like, what? You waiting for
I
me?
was about to jump in, but I've decided I'm going to let you take the lead on the
You are
highs.
because you know I don't like uncomfortable silences. You're setting
Pretty
me up
funny.
there, girl.
Oh,
Well, we're with a new book. You should be
mm-hmm.
grateful. Stories of Race, Identity, and Transracial Adoption by Angela Tucker. Shout out. Here we are, finally reading
Yay.
this book.
Major shout out right away at the beginning too, because Angela, we're going to get into it, but I didn't know a lot of these things about you, and I'm super like in awe of you already.
I know, and the
This is
writing is
wonderful.
great so far. But right at the beginning in the
Mm-hmm.
introduction, this is so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
An adoptee manifesto. We can love more than one set of parents. Relationships with our birth parents, foster parents, and our adoptive parents are not mutually exclusive. We have the right to our own original birth certificate. Curiosity about our roots is innate. We need access to our family medical history. The pre-verbal memories, if you have with your first family, are real. Postnatal culture shock exists. It's okay to feel a mixture of gratitude and loss. We are not alone. We have each other.
I love it. And she has it
Powerful.
framed in her office.
Mm-hmm.
Because she needed these reminders. So she kind of starts off with her. We're doing introduction, and then we're doing the part one, which is called, I'm sorry, you should be grateful.
Mm-hmm.
You should be grateful. And this was just interesting right out of the gate with
Actually, part
the
one is
facts.
discovering,
Oh, discovering. Right.
and then
Sorry.
chapter one is you should be
You
grateful.
should be
Yeah,
grateful.
sorry. That's right.
Right. There are 7 million adoptees in the world. 6 out of every 10 Americans have a personal experience with adoption. Yet the concept of adoptee centricism may be unfamiliar. So I like how she starts with, I'd like to introduce this to you, what this means.
Yeah, she's speaking at a conference.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and about, this is what she does with her
Yeah.
life is helps adoptees, families, all this
Yeah.
stuff. What I thought was really, I had never heard of this. She was adopted, it wasn't, so many people are adopted
Oh,
because
right.
of their parents' infertility,
Right.
right? But she was not one of those. She was adopted because her parents, her adoptive parents
Yeah.
subscribed to zero population growth.
I
So,
know.
and in fact, one of the things that they say in zero population growth is that the mother of the year should be a sterilized woman with two adopted children, which is just wild.
It was
Uh,
wild. I had never heard of it. And her parents really got into that and they had one child they called homemade, which her dad joked homemade. And then they had how many children? Was it 7 adopted children? But they all were adopted from all over. And they were living in Bellingham, Washington, which I know a little bit well,
which was a sundown town.
a sundown town,
You
which is
know,
interesting. Another piece of
it's,
history.
yeah, I have a book about the
Yeah.
sundown towns.
But
You-
that was they were like a kind of everyone knew who they were and like stand out and like that's that family with
And
all those
it was
kids.
that what they considered in the 90s of that post-racial,
Right.
colorblind era, which of
Yeah.
course
Yeah.
isn't
Isn't
doesn't
true.
work, isn't true.
And also she said that the blank slate era from our friend Georgia
Mm,
Tan was
Right.
carried over. Now they decided, oh, you could be a blank slate and a different race.
Right. It would just take the parent, your race doesn't matter because you're
No,
a blank slate.
please.
I thought this was interesting. The U.S. Children's Bureau began including race in its reporting system in 1948, and thus the first recorded transracial adoption occurred in 1948.
Yeah. Interesting. It just cool. It goes right along with it. Like,
And
she
then
had, yeah.
she talked about, this is still in keeping with that, about Black children adopted into white families were losing their connection to Black culture and family in a very segregated country. This was
Hmm.
most profoundly articulated by the National Association of Black Social Workers, who called transracial adoption racial genocide
Yeah.
in a 1972 position paper, saying they had taken a vehement stand against the placement of Black children in white homes for any reason. We have talked about this before because
Yes.
it's been touched on in
Yeah,
most of the books that we've read,
it
right,
has.
in the
Yeah,
history of adoption. So,
yeah,
but just it's, want to highlight that again.
for sure. And so the thing with Angela too is she was really you're lost. I mean, what I liked about this is because I am white, right? And so she gets into, you know, black people don't think you're black, white people don't think you're white. So you're
The
sitting there,
Oreo thing,
yeah, the Oreo thing,
the,
which is,
the derogatory
mm-hmm,
term of an Oreo, which
yeah.
means you're black on the outside but white on the inside.
I can just imagine because I think of all the feelings we go through and then compounding that. Okay, I'm not fitting into either culture, but
Hmm.
you're trying to learn it, and people are hard on her about it.
You
Like,
know, it's interesting, because this just popped into my head. I did
mm-hmm,
not know this, because she was a consultant on This Is Us,
I
because
know.
she must
Yeah.
have come on later in the show, because in the early episodes, I was like, they need, and this was before we came out of the fog, just
Yeah.
I watched the show and then, but later I noticed a marked difference of, oh, I bet there's an adoptee telling,
It
I don't
got,
know how many people watched that show. I
yes,
loved it. But she really got into his feelings as a black adoptee in a white family. And so
yes.
I just shout out Angela. That was, I
Yeah,
didn't
it
know that.
really, but because we highlighted that a couple, like several months ago, you said that was actually the really good show about it, right? The one
Yeah.
place. And look at Angela's involved. I didn't know any of that. It's just
Um,
super interesting what she does, actually.
I also didn't know that in the 80s there were adoption flyers.
No,
This
I
was news to
didn't
me.
either. Can we read hers? Look at
At
she
least, yeah, part of it
just part
anyway.
of
For
it.
sure.
She
Yeah.
reads her adoption flyer to a crowd. Okay, one thing I like is when she presents, she sort of says something cute and funny, and then lets it sit, and people laugh, and then she goes, "Oh, you probably think that's funny," but then she kind of drives things home, which
Mm-hmm.
I want to see her present. But
Oops.
her adoption flyer that she reads to everybody, I won't read the whole thing, is actually about her. So I can't imagine reading this; it'd be very strange. Angela is an 11-month-old black baby girl who has the potential
The
for being
potential. That's
potential. That's that word for being
mm-hmm.
very intelligent. However, she will need to be in a home where her parents are committed to a lifetime of treatment and specialized care. She needs a family who is willing to take the chances with her uncertain future. She has a severe form of cerebral palsy known as and then it goes into this whole thing about how she's not going to do well, really. Like,
And then
that's
she went on to be a basketball player and this and that.
collegiate basketball player, but
Yeah, like
just like
hello.
a sales paper on somebody,
Right.
really. That's how
Yeah.
I read it. I read it like, what
Well,
year is
it
this?
was
Like,
that. It was an adoption
yes,
flyer, so it was
yes.
targeted, it was probably a baby at a discount.
And
Uh,
by the way, I just saw on someone's post on social media a flyer for a child that was not so dissimilar. This is still going on, people, so don't think we're just talking past here.
right. We're talking current. I like that
Hmm.
her analogy of comparing herself to imperfect foods, that
Yes, read that. That was my favorite part,
mm,
actually.
some of our groceries have cosmetic quirks, irregular sizes, or are just surplus, which means they used to go to waste or get undervalued. While they may look
Mm.
different than what you'd find in a store, they're sustainable, delicious, and high quality.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Yep. And well, and so one thing that affected her, so she's speaking at a conference, and
Mm.
one of the social workers, right?
Wait, before you get
Mm-hmm.
there, because I know where
Mm-hmm.
you're going, but
Yep.
before you get there, she is sharing at this
Yep.
event, and she shares vulnerably about meeting her birth family that helped her reclaim her culture and integrate her racial identity, and
Mm-hmm.
and then after the talk back ended, she noticed that her parents, her adoptive parents, were surrounded by
Oh,
strangers, you
right.
know, that they were very concerned for. This was
Yes.
after the movie. I guess she screened her movie.
Yeah.
And then after that, they talked because they were concerned that her finding the birth parents hurt the adoptive parents.
Yeah. I did like it.
Always
Oh,
is the
always.
case.
And her adopted parents did say, honey, we're so proud of you that you shared. That's not, please don't take that as a reflection. So
Yeah.
then she's going to compose herself, go backstage and have a meet and greet, as you do at these things. Everybody wants to sign the book and talk to her. So they get lined up. The very first person that walks up to her, I'll just read this part right here. There's this, and she had noticed her in the audience, this beautiful black woman. She had a
With
beautiful
the
afro
gray
and her
afro. Yeah.
cool outfit. She was like that, like she longed for like a mentor in her life at some point, and she kind of looked at woman like, oh, like, she noticed her. So she comes up and she's first in line. So she thinks, oh, neat. She says, you are my worst fear realized. A black woman, a total stranger, says, stepping in the front of the line. As I blink back my shock, she continues, I came to hear you speak and you confirmed my worst fears. You aren't a true black person. I noticed her earlier while speaking on stage, blah, blah, blah. We just talked about that. But she actually turns out to be a former member of the National Association of Black Social Workers that you just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And it haunts her to this day. I mean, it bothers her because she never stayed to talk with her. She just walked away.
Yeah, she didn't give her an opportunity, that would
Mm.
have been a perfect opportunity
Yes.
as a social worker to
Yes.
talk to her about it, not just accuse her
She was the
of,
child. This is
right.
what still
This
gets me. The
wasn't
adoptee is still somehow, I mean, she said, I'm sorry for your situation that you had to lose your culture, but almost like, so is she a throwaway person now? I don't understand.
right. Like
Yeah.
she's not worth
Right.
a conversation or salvaging
Because she is a black person and
But
has a voice. It
it
bothers me.
certainly motivated Angela, right?
Yes, it
Because
did.
she
It
says,
gave
so
her
today
motivation.
I pack up my hurt along with my laptop and head back to the hotel, ready to take this new twist of pain and hopefully turn it into fuel for a more just adoption system that centers adoptees,
Yep.
like we are doing, like all of us in
Yep.
this community
And maybe
are
your worst
doing.
thing that happens
Center
is
it.
a gift to you, right? Because uh,
Ironic that this is when you're saying that, this time in our life. Okay,
that's
we'll cut
anyway,
that
this
out.
this has been really great that we're starting this book. Totally different for us. This is a good learning opportunity for myself
Mm-hmm.
and for
Same.
others. And I'm thrilled to meet her at the end of all this.
Me too. Me
Yeah.
too. So the next week will be chapter 2, the adoptee lounge.
Yeah. All
So
right.
I hope everyone's reading along. There's a link for the book in our show notes on our website, wherever you get your
Yes.
podcasts, if you want to read along with us, because
Yeah.
it's early days. You can catch up easily.
And we're starting our season here with Rebecca Wellington, which is pretty cool.
Yes, love Rebecca.
Me
Another
too.
great book that she
Yeah,
wrote. We'll talk
that's
about
right.
that.
All right.
So, okay. See you
See
in
you
a
in a
minute.
minute. See you in a minute.